Okay, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. Hello, hello, hello. We are now live, and I appreciate y'all being here. Yeah, we'll be doing that just 1 second. Imagine we have to put subscriber chat. Can you believe it? Imagine. Isn't that terrible? I don't understand. We have to actually put subscriber chat on TikTok. No, say it ain't so. It's so. Typical. Typical. What are you going to do? All right, everybody. Hello. Welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. And I appreciate all of you guys. Hey, trolls. Bye-bye. See you later. Now they're very angry because I put subscriber chat on. So now they can't insult unless they pay. That's kind of funny, actually. Okay. Well, thank you. So anyway, folks, welcome to the presentation. Thank you so much for being here. It is Saturday. Yeah, you're very welcome. Yeah, we were giving them grace and allowing them to just behave, but they couldn't do it. And so here we are, guys. Happy Saturday to you, wherever you are in this brutal world. Okay. Yes, for those of you who are on TikTok, I put subscriber chat on. The reason I put subscriber chat on is because people couldn't behave like a normal human being, and so therefore we had to put subscriber chat on because we don't tolerate trolls here because we're not a Jerry Springer show. That's on other platforms, or at least not on this platform. So if you want a Jerry Springer show, you got to scroll on to someone else's platform because we're adults here and we don't behave like pestilent children. Now, for the rest of you, happy Saturday. Okay, he's right. Sorry. Okay. Yeah, it is Saturday. I appreciate you guys being here. We got a very interesting presentation to be for you guys, and hopefully you're going to enjoy it. You know what? I've been kind of thinking about how I'm going to revamp the whole Saturday show because I get it. There's a lot of people that don't like book to the face. There's a lot of people that don't like TikTok. I understand that. And so we were kind of messing around with how we can figure out and tweak the Saturday show. I kind of like this, what we're doing now. So like Saturday, yeah, we're kind of doing an extra presentation. And I like that. So it's it might be an extra, little show, but I think it's pretty cool because there's so many topics to discuss. And so we're looking for, by the way, next Friday. Yeah, next Friday, I'm going to be talking about haunted items. Now, I have done this before. However, there are items that you've never seen before that I'm going to bring in. So that are pretty rough. So anyway, you'll have to tune in next Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the Paranormal Show, because we're going to be talking about haunted items. I'll also be talking about haunted items, obviously Annabelle and Robert the Doll and things of this nature. And then I'll be talking about the doll will be there. I will have the doll that's featured on the Eli Roth Presents Legion of Exorcists show that I'm a cast member on. You can watch it on HBO or Max or whatever they call it now, and Travel Channel, and I think it's all streaming on all the streaming devices. I'm not for sure. But anyway, so I will have the doll next week. And but there's some other quite a few items that you've never seen before. No one has. And so we're going to be doing that next Friday. And I'm looking forward to that. So I appreciate that. We had Father Bob Bailey on last night. I interviewed him. Father Bob obviously he's a retired Roman Catholic priest. He's the one who's following Annabelle. He's traveling with Annabelle the doll. Am I nervous about I'm not nervous. I'm just more aware. So, again, thank you there, Leo. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that next week. And what happened. Many of you have heard some of these stories before, but again, none of you have seen several of these new items that I'm bringing in. Because I've never done a video on them ever. So anyway, that's going to be next week, and so we'll be doing that. I am going to, of course, be showing some original paintings of John Wayne Gacy. We've done that before. You've seen them. A pair of Dahmer's glasses, an actual pair of Dahmer's glasses. So you'll see those. We've done that, but they've also there's about 7 or 8 items no one has ever seen that are, I would say, on the same level as the doll as far as danger. Yeah. So there we go. All right. So that'll be Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't reside in an Leo, what do you mean? Don't forget that tomorrow tomorrow at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Mass. It's only on TikTok. Okay, it's only on TikTok at 6 p.m. Eastern. And then at 8 p.m. Eastern is Bible Study Forever. Doing a GED, may need tutoring on English and writing. Well, yeah, Polish Press send me a message on Book to the Face. And so congratulations. I love that. So Bishop Long doing my GED, may need tutoring on English and writing English essay. Hope you see this. I'll be happy to help you. I have a master's of education. I used to teach, English at a college. I was actually a department chair for general education studies where I taught English. And I was a dean of academics, obviously. And I teach online English for people who are from other countries where English is a second language. So send me a message to Book to the Face. How's that? All right. Yeah, we'll help you. So congratulations. I think that's wonderful. Getting your GED. That's great. Oh, that's right. And by the way, Judy Ann, she says she can help too. Judy Ann is an editor. She's an editor of a very, very respected, a really, I think, a beautiful, if you've not seen this, of a horse magazine. And she writes obviously well. She's the editor, for goodness sake. So the fact that, Polish Prince, you have someone who has a master's of education, who was a former academic dean, and I teach online English, and you have Judy Ann, who is an editor of a magazine willing to help. So you've got a lot of help there. That's great. That's great. Congratulations on getting the GED. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So, okay, first of all, if you want to go to my website, it's very simple, bishopjameslong, LONG.com, bishopjameslong, LONG.com. And I want to remind everybody a couple of things on that website. Let's go ahead and do this first before we get this. We have a really cool show tonight, by the way. Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Maureen. Thank you. Maureen just sent a Galaxy, a gift on TikTok. So thank you. So bishopjameslong.com, you can click on, there is a fundraiser link to help our friend, Bishop Campbell. And he's just a wonderful human being. He is a preacher. He does not preach prosperity gospel. And he has served the poor all his life. And so if you can help him, that's wonderful. They got a lot of health issues and a lot of bills. And unfortunately, the system is set up, and I hate to say this, but the system is set up that, if you've never worked a day in your life, you don't have to worry about medical bills. But if you worked all your life and then you get sick, well, you still got to pay 20%. And so that's rough on people. So if you can help, that'd be wonderful. He would appreciate that. And he didn't ask me to do this. I did this on my own. So just go to bishopjameslong.com and click on the fundraiser link for our friend Bishop Campbell. He's, again, fantastic. And also, if you go to usocc.org, that is the church's website, usocc.org. And you can click there, and we have rosary, by the way, Monday through Friday. Bishop Elizabeth had let me know that Saturday won't work, obviously because of her working schedule. Completely understandable, obviously. But Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have online rosary, and it's on her Book to the Face page. I have to say that because, So anyway, you might want to consider going there, and don't forget Bible study tomorrow. And Bible study is really cool. So there you go. And the Bible study is at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. All right. Does that sound fair? Good. That's good. Okay. There's a couple of things here. Yep. Okay. Yeah. So we have got to help each other out. And if we can, that's great. Mm. Okay, William, how's Miss Wilma doing? Not so great. So, right before I went on air yesterday, Wilma called me. She was very, very upset, very emotional, because she says that she said she couldn't feel her left arm has gone completely numb, and that she just basically she couldn't move it. And she said today it was her hand. So I don't know if it's her hand or arm. I don't know. Um, and so she was concerned that perhaps she had a stroke, another stroke. Oh, I'm not a doctor. I don't think it is a stroke. She is now, they took her to the hospital to get tests and things of this nature. Her kidneys are acting up again. However, as I told her, I think this is, and again, I'm not a doctor, but I don't think this is a stroke. I think this is a pinched nerve. She's been in that bed for going on 4 months now. And I told her, Wilma, you got to get up. You got to get up. And she gets up periodically, but it's very rare. And I told her, your body is not meant to be on that bed for 4 months. And so, that's, until she gets up and moves, she's going to have issues with pinched nerve. And she just, it's like, come on, Wilma, get up. So hopefully, that will get her moving. I think what it is, honestly, I think Wilma is just really, and I understand, Wilma's really, really afraid of falling, because she fell once and broke her tailbone. And Wilma doesn't do well with pain at all, under any circumstances whatsoever. So like my migraines would absolutely 1,000,000% put Wilma in the hospital for a couple of weeks, because Wilma just doesn't do well with pain at all. Some people have a higher tolerance to pain. Like for me, I have cluster headaches and chronic migraines. And if you have cluster headaches, you know what they are like. You know what cluster headaches are like. And they are much worse than a migraine. I mean, my goodness, great. So my pain tolerance is very high, really high, compared to, like Wilma. And so anyway, just keep her in your prayers, and got to get her motivated. Well, yeah, you can send her something, Tara, and she received a lot of your cards and gifts and things of this nature. Right now, we don't know what's the situation, how long she's going to be in the hospital. No, she doesn't listen to the presentations because I don't think her cell phone is good enough to do that. It's an older Android, but and so anyway, just keep in your thoughts and prayers. That's the most important thing. And but she still flirts. She still flirts in the nursing home. She was telling me about this elderly gentleman who was in a wheelchair, and he kept walking around, and he would stop, right in front of her room and just, look around and look in her room. It's like, Wilma, you're in a nursing home. Knock it off. So she's already flirting. She's already flirting in the nursing home. Already flirting. I'm telling you. Yeah, and Walmart. Yeah. So anyway, that's Wilma's situation. We'll see. We'll see how things go. But well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Let me turn on this humidifier. One sec. One sec. There we go. Get some. The humidity is really terrible here in Kentucky, and it's just not a comfortable day. But we're here. Okay. And well, she has an iPad. She does have one, Catherine, but unfortunately now she says that her left arm is not working. So that really doesn't really, unfortunately, I was gonna go today and give her her iPad, and but she didn't answer because they sent her to the hospital. So. Yeah, right. Yeah, Tony. And she's Wilma's in kidney failure, Tony. So she understands that. So anyway, keep her in. We don't know if she's going to have dialysis, but apparently her kidneys aren't doing so great. So yeah, she's this has been 4 months now. So you're in stage 3. Yeah, she was in stage 3 too. And I think now it's elevated. Okay. So, yep, keep on your thoughts and prayers. She would appreciate that. And I know that the rest of her family will. So, and we have to pray for one another. That's the thing. We just have to pray for one another. But okay, so let's go into our conversation for tonight, if you don't mind, because we have a lot to go over. And there's a lot of articles that I didn't even get to, a lot. And so we're going to get to some of those later on. But I want to talk about the Dyatlov Pass. But I also want to talk about an incident that was eerily similar to the Dyatlov Pass, eerily similar. And when you hear the story, it's odd. Something doesn't add up here, and we're going to talk about that, and hopefully you'll enjoy it too. For those of you who are on TikTok right now, we'll leave the chat only for subscribers, and when all the trolls go away, then we'll probably open it up for everybody. But we had to turn on the we had to turn it on because people couldn't, behave. All right. First of all, let's talk about the Dyatlov Pass. This is one of those cases where I don't accept the explanation, the official explanation. I think it's ridiculous. And anybody I read the whole case many times over again, and I find that there's something. Oh, thank you, Darcy. So this is very interesting, and I want to chat with you about this particular article. Let me see. It is we see this by Lawton Anderson and Keith McCloskey. So for those of you who are unaware of the Dyatlov Pass, it was an incident in which 9 Soviet students from the Ural Polytechnical Institute passed away under very mysterious circumstances in the northern Ural Mountains between February 1st and 2nd of 1959. And they were experienced trekking group who had trained and planned for this adventure. And however, something occurred in the depths of this night that caused these college students to panic in such a manner that they recklessly cut their way out of their tent. They cut it, and they fled into the freezing darkness in the middle of a snowstorm to escape the unknown nightmare they confronted. And what happened on the mountain that would cause these well-trained hikers to rush out into the freezing elements, and they were not properly dressed, some not even wearing shoes as they ran through the snow? And what took their lives at the Dyatlov Pass that night? And there were some in their underwear. Something terrifying happened. Dog Norma, we're going to get to that. I disagree with that statement. I'll tell you why in a moment. So after several days of search for the hikers was initiated, they found nothing until about 4 months after the deaths. And after the group's bodies were discovered, an investigation by Soviet authorities determined that 6 of the hikers had died from hypothermia, while other 3 had been unalived by physical trauma. And one of the victims had devastating damage to the skull, while 2 others had severe chest trauma. Another of the other unfortunate trekkers had a small crack in his skull, and some sort of violent incident had occurred. But by whom or what? And the investigation concluded that the impact on these bodies was such a kind of trauma that a human being was incapable of inflicting such damage. Now, there's a lot of people who say perhaps maybe it was a Yeti. And I'll tell you why. This is why they believe this. There was an actual photo that was developed from a roll that is recovered in the gear of one of the hikers. And if you've never seen this, a lot of people say it looked like a Yeti. You can agree, you can disagree, but what I'm going to do, let me save this right now, and then I'll pull it up on the phone, and I can show those of you who are on TikTok, and then I can show those of you who are watching this on all the other social media platforms. It's interesting. I think it's interesting. Right. That there's a lot of people who say that it was. I question this, and let me just pull this up. That way you guys can see it. One second. This was actually, they captured this, and there it is. All right, let me share the file. Share screen. There you go. For those of you who are watching on all the social media platforms, that's what they saw. This is an actual picture that was taken. Now, when you see that, you have to wonder, okay, what does look a little odd, certainly looks suspicious. I think at least I think we could all say that looks suspicious. That doesn't look normal. And many people are thinking, okay, there's some type of strange, and we'll argue, we'll explain some of the theories as to what happened, and we'll talk about that in just a second. I'm trying to find out this author of this, and I don't see it. Okay. So this happened, again, in 1959. And the Ural Mountain Range is an ancient, formidable geographical feature that stretches about 2,500 kilometers from the northernmost edge of Russia to the country's southern borders. It serves as a natural boundary between the vast plains of the European region and the expansive landscapes of Siberia. And it is within the frigid grasp of these mountains that the location known as Dyatlov Pass is found. The term pass typically refers to a pathway through the mountain range, but in this case, the Dyatlov Pass denotes they were able to navigate the route in the northern sector of the Ural Mountains. It was named after Igor Dyatlov, the leader of the ill-fated expedition. Thank you. Now, while elevations that are not exceptionally high compared to other mountain ranges, the highest peak reaches only in that area 1,895 meters. The Ural's harshness lies not in its height at all, but in its severe weather condition. So the region experiences long and brutal winters with temperatures that can drop to minus 30 degrees Celsius. Snow blankets the area for many months of the year, making the terrain treacherous. Now, the Dyatlov Pass is situated on the eastern slope. Again, it's also known as Dead Mountain by the indigenous Mansi language. So the ill-fated expedition, it resulted in the Dyatlov Pass. It began as an ambitious journey planned by a group of ski hikers, again from the Ural Polytechnic Institute. It's located in Russia. The team, it was led by 23-year-old radio engineering student named Igor Dyatlov, consisted of 8 men and 2 women. All were experienced grade 2 hikers with ski tour experience. And upon the completion of the trip, they were to be awarded grade 3. That's the highest certification in the Soviet Union at that time. So these were not novices. So the team members were all in their 20s. They were all fit. They were physically prepared to withstand the harsh winter conditions in the Ural Mountains. So the cold, they were fully prepared for. They were very well versed in survival techniques. Thank you. And carried with them all the necessary gear for such an expedition. So now there was one member, Yuri Yudin, was also part of the initial team, but had to withdraw because he had an illness. So the group's plan was to reach the far northern regions of the oblast there, to traverse a pass in the northern Ural Mountains and eventually summit Mount Ortorten. And again, the name Otorten in the local Mansi language means don't go there or dead mountain. It's an ominously prophetic warning. Anyway, the trek was estimated to take about 16 days. So on January 25th, 1959, the group departed by train and at the university, and several more days of travel by truck and horse, and finally on foot. So they started the journey towards Otorten from the remote settlement in January 27. So the group seemed in great spirits. They meticulously documented their journey with diaries and cameras. They were aware of the challenges ahead, and they were okay. So the timeline of the Dyatlov Pass incident begins with the group's departure. The last inhabited settlement, I think it's Visa, it's the last settlement in the region in January 27, 1959. And for a few days, the team made steady progress, albeit slightly slower than they had initially anticipated due to weather conditions. That's okay. So on January the 28th, one of the team members, Yuri Yudin, was forced to turn back due to illness. Thank you. And the remaining 9 members of the team continued. So the team had planned to traverse over the pass and make camp on the opposite side, but due to worsening weather conditions and reduced visibility, they lost their direction and ended up deviating west towards the top of this small, well, it's not high mountain. And realizing their mistake, the team decided to set up camp on the slope of the mountain, planning to correct their course the following day. Now, that's important to note, because a lot of people say on that slope is what caused an avalanche. But the events of the night on February 1st and early morning hours of February 2nd remain a mystery. Something catastrophic occurred that caused the experienced hikers to cut their way out of their tent in apparent panic and flee into the frigid night. So it wasn't until February 20th, when the team failed to report back to this university as expected, that a search and rescue operation was launched. And the group's tent was found on February 26th, half torn down and covered in snow. It was cut open from the inside, and most of the group's belongings, including their shoes, were left behind. And the bodies of the first 2 victims, clad only in their underwear, were discovered near the remains of a fire. And the next 3 bodies, including Dyatlov's, were found at a distance of 300, 480, 630 meters from the tree. So it seemed as though they had been attempting to return to the tent. And the remaining 4 bodies were not found until 2 months later, buried under 4 meters of snow in a ravine 75 meters further into the woods from the tree. So these 4 were better dressed than the others, and there were no signs. And there were signs that those who had died first had apparently relinquished their clothes to others. Now, Zolotarev was found wearing Dubinina's fur coat and hat. And there were some other people wearing other people's clothes. But anyway, obviously the belief is that they passed away and they put those clothes on. The immediate investigation into the Dyatlov Pass incident began shortly after the first bodies in the campsite were discovered. It was led by a prosecutor and included medical examinations, analysis, recovered diaries, photographs. So the abandoned campsite presented a chilling tableau. The team's tent was found half collapsed, covered in snow, and with a large tear from the inside. So most of the group's belongings, including clothing, shoes, and other equipment, were found neatly arranged inside. That indicates that they left in a hurry. And outside the tent, investigators find 9 sets of footprints, some barefoot or in socks, leading away from the campsite. The initial discovery of the first 5 bodies, 2 near a makeshift tree and 3 scattered between the fire and the tent, obviously painted a distressing picture. So the autopsy showed that they had passed away from hypothermia. No external injuries were found. Now that's important to know. No external injuries were found. Okay, and I'll tell you why that's important in a moment. The fact that some bodies were found wearing clothes that belonged to other members indicated that some of the hikers had survived longer and possibly put those clothes on. So the situation took an even more perplexing turn with the discovery of the remaining 4 bodies 2 months later, found under several meters of snow. Unlike the companions, these hikers had suffered severe and unusual injuries. The autopsy reports revealed that 2 of them had major chest fractures, and 1 had a severe skull injury. Intriguingly, the force required to cause such damage would have been incredibly high, akin to like a car crash. What baffled the investigators, and I'm going to say this again, was the complete absence of any external wounds or bruises that was typically associated with such injuries. Therefore, it couldn't have been an avalanche. Because if it had been an avalanche, there would have been external injuries. There were none. So the initial investigation concluded in May of 1959 with the official reporting stating that the hikers died as a result of a compelling natural force. That's what they called it. A statement as ambiguous as the circumstances of the incident itself. So the lack of a clear conclusion, coupled with a subsequent sealing of the case and its files by Soviet authorities, only serves to deepen the mystery. Now, there's a lot of questions here. The Dyatlov Pass incident is surrounded by an aura of mystery. One of the first puzzling details was the discovery of the tent itself. It was found half collapsed, cut open from the inside, with all the group's belonging neatly arranged within. It was half collapsed. Half. So one investigator had stated that it could not have been an avalanche, because if it was an avalanche, the whole entire tent would have been completely destroyed. And not only that, but there will be external injuries on the bodies, clearly demonstrating an avalanche of some heavy kind. But only half the tent was covered in snow. So therefore, it doesn't make sense for the avalanche. So this suggests that whatever caused their group to leave the tent, they did it in such a way that they didn't even have time to properly dress or put on the shoes. Yet here's what's interesting. The calm arrangement of their belongings inside the tent contradicts the theory of a frantic escape. This inconsistency has baffled investigators. The hikers' clothing presented even another enigma. Some items of clothing were found to be radioactive. Like the eyes, there's one of the eyes being taken out. That could have been the animal. An animal could have done that. But these were all pre. And also puzzling was the orange tan on the victim's face and the gray hair, details that do not align with the cause of death cited in the autopsy reports. They had an orange tan. Now, compounding the mystery, the Soviet government promptly classified the case as secret. And the official explanation was deemed final. So the Dyatlov Pass was closed to expeditions and hikers for 3 years following the incident. So here are some theories as far as what could have happened. One, avalanche theory. I throw that out there. I don't agree with that at all. One of the most widely accepted theories is that of an avalanche. It is argued that the sound of an approaching avalanche or the initial tremors of one might have forced the group to hastily abandon their tent and seek shelter in the woods. However, skeptics argue that there were no obvious signs of an avalanche at all at the site. And the injuries suffered by some of the victims were not typical of avalanche victims. And experienced hikers like the Dyatlov Pass, a group, would not have encamped in an area prone to avalanches. Remember, these were not novices. And we have to remember, no external injuries or signs. Bruising, you would have seen this. Now, there's another theory, infrasound phenomenon. So another plausible scientific theory involves a natural phenomenon called Kármán vortex street, which can produce low-frequency sound waves known as infrasound. And under certain wind conditions, the mountain's specific shape could have generated a whirlwind of these infrasounds, including panic attacks or madness among the hikers. However, the impact of the infrasound on humans is still a subject of ongoing research. So it's speculative. There is also there's a theory of military involvement. Thank you. So given the Cold War era, some theorists suggest that the hikers might have unintentionally entered a secret military testing ground, fallen victim to an experimental weapon, or even were unalived to cover up a military secret. The radioactivity found on their clothes is often pointed to support the theory. There's another theory of the Mansi attack, but the Mansi were questioned and they were found completely innocent. So early in the investigation, suspicion fell on the indigenous Mansi people with the idea that they might have attacked the hikers for encroaching on the sacred lands. There was no evidence of anyone else having been near to the Dyatlov Pass. So again, that's nothing. So there was a reopening of the case recently, and the Russian authorities announced in 2019, 60 years after the event, that they were reopening the case. And but unfortunately, however, the scope of the investigation was limited, as officials stated that they would only consider 3 explanations: avalanche, a snow slab, or a hurricane. Nonetheless, and in July 2020, the investigators officially declared as an avalanche as the most likely cause of the tragedy. That's nonsense. Nonsense. Again, if it was an avalanche, the entire tent would have been destroyed. And also, if it was an avalanche, then the hikers would have had external injuries. Clearly. So I just simply don't agree. That doesn't make sense. So there's a lot, and by the way, a lot of people say there's no way, because despite the official declaration, the avalanche theory has been met with a lot of skepticism from even experts and relatives of the victim, as it fails to explain anomalies like the trace of radioactivity and an orange tan in the middle of Siberia in the winter. And the lack of any sign of typical avalanche, by the way, when the rescue team arrived, and the fact that the group was experienced. So there was no sign at all of an avalanche. So while this recent development has provided a plausible explanation for the Dyatlov Pass incident, the case continues to baffle people. And today, it still remains an unsolved mystery. We simply do not know. I don't buy the theory at all that it was an avalanche. I don't accept that. That's ridiculous. I just don't buy it. Now, we're going to talk about a topic that's another really interesting one. And this, you may not have ever heard of this before. And it's quite alarming. And you kind of wonder, So this is the Qamar Daban incident. Listen to this. This is really fascinating. It was August 5th, 1993, that 6 Kazakhstani hikers passed away in the Qamar Daban mountain range under very uncertain circumstances. It has been likened to the Dyatlov Pass incident. So the 6 hikers who were members of the 7-person hiking group led by Korovina, and Valentina was the group's sole survivor. That's also an interesting. And despite the police receiving a report, no formal search was carried out until the 24th of August. It took 2 days for helicopters to locate the remains because the sole survivor, Valentina, had not yet been able to recount her version of what happened. And according to an autopsy report, all the victims passed away of hypothermia, except Korovina, who passed away from a heart attack. Let me tell you what happened. So Qamar Daban is a mountain range in southern Siberia. It's in Russia. It's a popular tourist hiking spot. And in the summer, so this was summer of 1993, Korovina, there's a tourist club, an experienced hiking instructor, and a master of sports and hiking planned a hiking trip to the Qamar Daban Mountains. And she was joined by 6 other of her students. So Corvina had previous hiking, in the Kamar-Daban area, and the students trained with her for the trip. So these were people who were not, one was age 41, Corvina, and they got 24, 29, 23, 19, 17, 16, 15. So they were relatively healthy people. So the group of 7 hikers, led by Corvina, arrived by train in August of 1993. And Corvina's hiking group was one of the 3 in the area, one of which was being led by her daughter, Natalia. And starting on the 2nd of August in 1993, their trip led from the village of Marino all the way through this pass. It was beautiful, the river, the mountain along a ridge, ending on the watershed plateau of the Baiga rivers. So Corvina's group was meant to cross paths with her daughters on August the 5th. So the first 2 days of the hike turned out to have gone better than the group had actually planned. Them making great time. However, on August 4th, as they were beginning their descent, they were hit with an unexpected rainstorm. So Corvina decided to make camp in an exposed location, with the group failing to an attempt to build a fire that night. So they managed to build a fire in the morning of August the 5th and ate breakfast together before continuing their path. Okay, everything is good. According to Valentina, who was the only survivor, the sole survivor, and again, Valentina, she was 17 years old. So according to her, while descending down the mountain at the altitude of about 2,400 meters, it's basically 7,800 feet. That's it. So it's not terribly high. Kristen, who was at the back of the group, started screaming. And she was bleeding from, he was bleeding from his eyes and ears and frothing at the mouth. And he fell to the ground convulsing and then went still. So Corvina, who was obviously the lead there, ran up to him, trying to get him to gain consciousness. And then a moment later, she cried out, having the same symptoms as Kristen. So she then convulsed and then collapsed on top of Kristen. And then Filipinko, who had gotten to Corvino first, was the next to collapse. She began grabbing at her throat as though she couldn't breathe. And then she crawled over to a nearby rock, and unfortunately she bashed her head against it, and then she went limp. So then there was 2 other people started to run, and while running, they collapsed and they passed away. They were throwing up blood and clawing at their throats, and they even began to tear their clothes off. And 2 other folks then hurried away, but shortly after, they collapsed and began convulsing as well. So on the next day, Valentina, she went down the mountain and set up a tent under a tree since she fell asleep. And on the next day, she returned to the site of her friend's, deaths to retrieve supplies that she needed from their bodies. For 4 days, she followed power lines down the mountain in hopes that someone would find her. And she found a river and started following it. On August the 9th, she was found by a group of Ukrainian kayakers who took her to the nearest police station where a report was filed. She was the only survivor. Everybody else died of this terrible death. So Valentina did not speak for several days. And the official search was conducted on August the 24th. And because Valentina had not been able to recount her version of the events yet, it took days to find the bodies using helicopters. And the hikers' bodies were noted to have been partially undressed. So all of the deceased hikers were found to have signs of bruised lungs. And an autopsy carried out concluded that Kristen and all these people passed away of hypothermia. But Corvina, who was the leader, had a heart attack. Now, protein deficiency due to malnutrition was listed as a contributing factor to their deaths. So there's a lot of theories here. One, there's been multiple theories have been proposed to explain what caused the hiker's death. And rescuers who took part in the search and the operation for the bodies claimed that it was impossible for the hikers to pass away of hypothermia. And one researcher, one searcher, suggested that they might have passed away from altitude sickness, but tourist Vladimir, and member of the search operation, suggested that the hikers went mad due to infrasounds. And then there was another a leader of the search operation blamed their passings on Korovina's negligence, claiming that she was starving her students, which caused them to have vitamin deficiency. So in 2018 interview, Valentina denied the theory that Korovina might have been responsible for the deaths, and she believed that the cause of the hikers' deaths was pulmonary edema. But it's weird, isn't it? It's like all these people passed away. So first, the hypothermia, ridiculous. The first explanation proposed that the hikers passed away in the exact way the autopsy report concluded they did, by succumbing to hypothermia after not being properly sheltered that night. In severe hypothermia, there may have been hallucinations and paradoxical undressing, in which a person removes their clothing, which would explain why the hikers were partially undressed. Certain parts of Valentina's story could have been unintentionally exaggerated by her due to the fact that people who undergo traumatic experience often, misremember details. There's another theory that it was a military experiment that caused their passing. One theory suggests that the hikers might have stumbled upon a Russian military experiment conducted in the mountains and were unalived, so that the experiment would remain a secret. Now, this theory was deemed uncredible due to the Kamar Dobbins mountain range being a public area. So that wouldn't make no sense. There is a theory of nerve agents. So symptoms described by Valentina's bear resemblance to death by nerve agents, and in particularly frothing at the mouth, convulsing, match death by a strong nerve agent. The bruising of the lungs could also be a sign of death by nerve gas. And as contact may cause respiratory distress. And it can also cause cardiac arrest, which would match Korovina, the leader's cause of death. So a family of nerve agents developed by the Soviet Union and Russia up to 1993 are and considered to be the deadliest nerve agents to exist, or reportedly tested in the areas near Kamar Daban. There's another theory of contaminated water. So there's a lake that's near. It's known to be a toxic waste dumping ground. If the waste was washed downstream, the hikers might have drunk the toxins into their water. Some toxins might not have been visible in a standard toxicology report. But if that was the case, then Valentina probably drunk from the same water. There's another theory of mushroom poisoning. So there's another theory, and it suggests that the hikers might have hallucinated and got sick due to a mushroom poisoning. So Korovina, she was the leader. She was known to be a forager, and she taught the art to her students. Now, one of the hikers might have accidentally added poisonous mushrooms to their breakfast, and they could have been hallucinogenic mushrooms in very rare cases. And, you can have this most in Amanita mushrooms might cause psychosis, convulsions, cardiac arrest, even send a person into a coma. Well, anyway, we just simply don't know. But this is what makes this so very interesting, that it seemed like everybody died in very mysterious ways. Quite honestly, almost the exact way. And then, but the leader passed away of a heart attack. I don't know. I think it's quite strange for me. And when you read this, you kind of wonder, I wonder what's going on here. But I also find it strange that Valentina survived. So it doesn't make a whole lot of sense of being up too far, because if that was the case, first of all, the leader of the group, she was well versed. She was, she knew the hiking, and she hiked plenty of times that location. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. It seemed like some type of poisoning. I don't know, but again, they're 7,000 feet. So 7,000 feet is high, but I mean, it's not, to the point where you're going to have a bunch of people passing away. It just seems strange. It seems very, very odd. Now, what happened? We don't know. But there was now the autopsy, to be fair. So the autopsy, the bodies were recovered 2 weeks later after the incident, and they were performed. And again, Korovina, the leader, apparently had passed away of a cardiac arrest. And the others showed signs, again, of protein deficiency in muscles that suggested starvation. Dubious on a short trip. It's not a long trip. And meanwhile, fluid buildup in their lungs indicated hypothermia. Nevertheless, doctors ruled these two conditions as they ruled them out as the likely cause of death. However, some doctors, but it doesn't explain why they passed away within minutes of presenting no prior signs. So that's what doctors say. Oh, it's hypothermia. It's starvation, but they showed no signs of this before. So Valentina, the sole survivor, she vanished from the spotlight until a curious tracker or reporter tracked her down in 2018. And 25 years later, Valentina's initial behavior toward the reporter was rather hostile. And she asked the reporter, why was she bringing this nightmare up again? She could have suffered from PTSD. And she kept the incident a secret, even from her husband. But she eventually calmed down and allowed the reporter to interview her. So there are notable spots in Valentina's story that could have been mistranslation from the Russian sources or trauma, making her forget important details. It's well known that people can lose pieces of their memory, from when it comes to a stressful event. For example, she said there was no blood when in her initial report there was. She also changed her story, saying that there were no screams. Now, some have speculated whether her reaction suggests that she might have been responsible for her friend's passing, but that's highly unlikely. She had no motive. And the group often went on hikes together. And exactly how does a 17-year-old girl unalive 6 colleagues? So investigations briefly suspected Korovina, and she was apparently, quite driven when it came to trekking and sometimes pushed her troops too hard. So Korovina was the leader. And could she have driven them into exhaustion and hypothermia? So Korovina may have had an intense personality, but she was not unprofessional. She was not power hungry. She was not negligent. And Valentina even stated that Korovina cared for the group even to the end. So in dissecting the story, there's a YouTube channel pointed out that there's a Russian version and an English version, and they differ in significant ways, including even the mountain on which they passed. Some sources say that it was a different mountain. There were two peaks that lie, basically 2 distance apart. So some sources quote different dates. Some say she emerged from the trees covered in blood and screaming, while others say that her staring into space and she was unresponsive. But again, a lot of people say it was a nerve agent. But if that's the most common theory. It remains that they fell victim to a nerve agent. It's not an outlandish proposition. So frothing at the mouth and bleeding from the eyes and ears and nose supposedly preceded their deaths. And Siberia was the Soviet Union's playground when it came to weapon testing. So could it have been? We don't know. But it's very similar to the Dyatlov Pass. For some, I think the mystery tale, it bears a striking resemblance. By the way, in the Dyatlov Pass, for those of you a little bit more information, one of the hikers in the Dyatlov Pass had no eyes and tongue. And another bit his knuckle off. And one's neck was twisted, and another had a fractured skull in the Dyatlov Pass. One hiker who left the expedition early on illness survived. And the placement of their belongings did not match up with their deaths. Everything was well organized except for a tent that was cut from the inside. So we just simply don't know. But when you look at these 2 cases, it seems very strange to me. I don't. Everything that I read about the Corvina, and it doesn't appear that she was trying to harm her students at all, but just trying to teach them nutrition and health and hiking. It doesn't appear. And by the way, she was in excellent health. So she was 41 years old. Yeah, both in Russia, both in Siberia. But I think there's something very strange with the Dyatlov Pass when you look at it and kind of break down the layers, and you go a little bit deeper into this. There are too many inconsistencies. I don't buy the avalanche theory under any circumstances, and it does appear that in the Kamar Daban situation, it seems like a nerve agent. No, she didn't have enemies. No, she was very well respected. She was very skilled. And by the way, these people that went with her, they had been on hikes before. So it's not like they didn't know each other. They were all friends. They were students of hers. So these were people who had been on plenty of hikes, and it was in the middle of summer. So even the hypothermia doesn't make a whole heck of a lot of sense. It just simply doesn't. And by the way, remember, they did eventually build a fire. So they all got warm and they all ate breakfast. Something happened from when they ate breakfast and were going down this track. Something happened at that moment. So the idea that they passed away from hypothermia, well, that definitely doesn't make sense, because they eventually built the fire on August the 5th. So they were all nice and warm and cozy and comfortable, and their bellies are full. Well, something happened. Yeah, it could be mushrooms, perhaps. But I mean, Catalina, she was very experienced, and she would know mushroom. Thank you. Which mushroom to eat, which mushroom to not to eat. So that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me either. I'm thinking, honestly, in the same manner that I think it was some type of nerve agent for the Kamar Daban, I also think it was, because it doesn't make sense of them grabbing at their throat. Something happened to where it was a poison. Yeah, there was some type of, obviously a deprivation. There was something there. I think there were, well, I don't know, it sounds terrible, but I think their throats clogged up or swollen, and they couldn't breathe, suffocated. I don't know. So that's very strange, isn't it? The weather was comfortable. Yeah, the weather in that area is not bad at all. Remember, it's in the middle of summer. So, this stupid Instagram. I don't even know why I even mess with Instagram. I mean, every time for every 1 hour, you got to always get another key. I keep saying that. I think I'm gonna stop doing that. Because every time I have to do this, I have to stop right in the middle of it just to do another key for it. It's like, yeah, I don't know, but it's definitely on. It's when you look at it, it kind of makes you wonder, what happened there. Hold on, I'm trying to talk and try to do this stupid thing at the same time. Yeah, I think I'm going to stop doing Instagram. I don't even like Instagram anyway. Okay. Sorry, I don't understand Instagram. It doesn't make any sense. Like little bubbles in their lungs. Yeah. So we don't know. Yeah, it's awfully strange. That's what we do know. It is awfully strange. In both cases, I'm absolutely convinced that the Dyatlov Pass is not. I don't buy the avalanche theory, because number one, the slope was not steep enough for an avalanche. Now, some people say, yeah, but they dug into the hill and kind of built a tent there to try to keep out of the wind. Okay, if that was the case, then if there was an avalanche, it would have covered the entire tent, and it didn't. So that doesn't make sense at all. Let me check. Go away. So I'm trying to find out here. Someone has asked a question because I don't know. I don't live there. Oh, 73 degrees. Yeah. So very, very cold winters, obviously. But yeah, I mean, it would have been 73 degrees. Yeah. So that doesn't make it, it makes no sense. Let me double check here. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. In July, the high is usually 78 degrees and the low is 56. No, this is the Qamar Daban. So yeah, so we're getting those confused because someone was asking what was the weather. So the weather in the Qamar Daban, which they claimed it was hypothermia, was the cause of death. No, the high in July is 78. Well, thank you, there, Sister. So that's ridiculous. So and the low is only 56. Now, in certainly during the Dyatlov incident, that would have been very, very cold. Now that, yes. And matter of fact, let me see. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out this here. Yeah, it was so at the time of the Dyatlov Pass incident in February 1959, the weather would have been extremely harsh. Temperatures would have been minus 13 to minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. So yes, that would, and it says here a storm was blowing and heavy snowfall persisted for several days leading up to the incident. So yeah, minus 22 degrees. Yeah, you're at Fahrenheit. That's in the Dyatlov Pass. Again, that's the Dyatlov Pass. So we're getting confused. Remember, I got two people asking two different questions. The Dyatlov Pass was in February. That was minus 22 degrees Fahrenheit. That's different than the Qamar Daban incident. That was also in Siberia, in Russia, but that was in August. And the high is in the 70s. And the low is in the, mid 50s. So the Qamar Daban, they said, the doctors say that they passed away from hypothermia. What? Hypothermia? That doesn't make sense at all. That makes no sense. Hypothermia was certainly an issue for the Dyatlov Pass incident, no question. No question. But the Qamar Daban, it's in the middle of August. 70 degrees the high, 75. So anyway, that's very strange to me. And let's turn we'll turn the chat on to everyone on TikTok. TikTok, I'm not playing around. I'm not playing games. If the trolls come in and they're disrespectful, I'm going to put the sub chat right back on. I don't play these games. I don't play this nonsense. So I'm just giving everybody a heads up. We'll block the trolls, but we're not gonna put up with silly games here. So anyway, that's the story for that. It's kind of weird. Yeah, Faith says, I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. And by the way, the reason is we put sub chat on is because people were being rude and disrespectful. And we're not going to put up with that. Well, I'm not rude or disrespectful to anybody here. So we're not going to allow people to come in and be rude or disrespectful to us. We're just not. So I'll put sub chat on every single time and I won't apologize for it. Because until TikTok fixes the troll problem, this is how I deal with the issues of trolling. And I'll continue to do it every day. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So it's very interesting. I don't know. But let's go into some articles that I did not get into, guys. I've got to. We got to talk about this. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Well, the military originally found the Dyatlov, and then they had a a searching team found the other group. So yes, the that one photo, Saint Novicer, that one photo found at the Dyatlov Pass is legitimate. That was the one of the last that was the last, actually one of the last photos. The last photo at the Dyatlov Pass that made no sense was it looked like lights, multiple lights in the picture. Some people argue that it's a flare. Some people argue that that the Russians were launching rockets, and it could have been a failed rocket. They just simply don't know. The very last picture of the Dyatlov looked like some type of flare. That was the weird thing about it when you look at it. Let me see if I can find. Well, you can Google it. Let's see. Yeah, it's kind of a strange. Yeah, when you look at it, you can just type in. Well, I'll do it. It's just easier to just do it and show everybody. But it is kind of strange. I don't know what it is. It clearly, this was taken in haste. No one knows what it is. So let me show you. This was the last picture taken. And so let me show my friends there. Okay. I'll show you guys. And then I'll show everybody on TikTok in just a second. So present, share screen. There you go. So that's the last picture there. Now, see, if you look, to me, I don't see a flare. I see a face. That's what I see. If you blow it up, see, to me, I see a face. This is where I see the face right there. And a beard, looks like a beard to me. You see, I see the nose. See, let me show you guys a little closer. See that? That's what I see. So here's the beard. Here's the nose. That's what I see. I don't see flares or anything. I see a face. But that's what I see. I know, really strange. I will, AJ. Yeah, I'll see that. So I haven't heard anybody talk about that, but that's definitely what I see. Okay. Now, so let me share something with you here. Okay. I got to share this. So listen to this. This is crazy. So TK Randall writes this, and I remember this being a real legitimate issue that people were trying to bring up for Joe Biden. There was a theory out there that suggested that Biden was replaced by a clone. So theories have been coming thick and fast in recent years, increasingly blurring the line between far-fetched speculation and unsettling reality, especially in the realms of politics. Well, the latest theory, which is perhaps one of the strangest we've heard to date, comes courtesy not only an unnamed conspiracy theorist in social media, but the President of the United States himself, who made the decision to share the conspiracy on his Truth social platform. The post suggests that Joe Biden, who ended his tenure at the White House earlier this year, the conspiracy series says that he actually passed away in 2020 and was replaced with some sort of clone or doppelganger. The original post describes this as a robotic engineered, soulless, mindless entity. The bizarre conspiracy theory has gained some serious traction since Trump, I don't know why he would do this, shared it with 10 million followers, leading to raised eyebrows and even condemnation upon his political rivals. So it has been picked up by several major news outlets across the world. And what the claim itself is obviously nonsense. It does demonstrate just how easily conspiracy theories can be shared around the world. But this was recent. So come on, don't stop. It's like, stop. It's starting to get a little annoying now. I mean, it's like, dude. I mean, it's something. Look, if you voted for Trump, great. If you didn't, great. But I mean, you can't be tweeting that the former president of the United States passed away in 2020, and he was replaced with a doppelganger. Come on. It's starting. It's irritating me. I don't like it. Anyway, believe it or not, that's what people are saying. I know. But guys, I mean, I know there's hardcore, Trump support. That's fine if you're that's fine. But we can't be doing this. We can't be doing this. I'm just not a fan of that. I don't like it. It's like, okay, Anyway, but that's a doppelganger is the belief that everybody has an exact clone. That you even have a doppelganger. But I just, probably on book to the face, short-lived. So, but anyway, there you go. I just wanted to pass that out. I'm just like, oh, goodness gracious. But so there are lots of crazy things being posted in the end. We may be shocked at what's actually, I know, Judy Ann, but that's too much. That's too much. You're the president of the United States of America. There are people there are world leaders that are watching every move. And you tweet that Joe Biden passed away in 2020 and there's a doppelganger. No. This is no. It's like, dude, stop. Just stop. We can't do this. You're the most powerful person in the world, and you're tweeting that Joe Biden passed away, and he was replaced with a doppelganger. Oh, I know. Yeah, I agree. I don't care. Look, if you're a Democrat or Republican, you're the president of the United States, and all the world is watching. Every world leader is watching. And when a president, whether the Democrat or Republican, starts posting that the former president passed away in 2020 and he was replaced with a doppelganger, that would make anybody who might be a little nefarious say, maybe that president is a little unhinged. I mean, he can believe it, but there are some things to tweet and there's some things don't. Those are the inner voice. The inner voice, Anyway, it's like, come on, dude, stop. But, But again, and I want to make this clear. I want to make this very clear. Even if you're Democrat or Republican, I don't care. It doesn't, but to me, it's like if you're Democrat or Republican, I just don't like that. Because it shows that, to me, sends a really strong message of that's unstable. That's not, I mean, think of this for a moment. Even if Joe Biden had said, well, Barack Obama, that's not the real Barack Obama, I would be saying the same thing. Biden, don't do that. Don't do that. That's unhinged. Don't do that. Yeah, you can go to my website, bishopjameslong.com, and scroll down to where, right, but I can't put my head under the sand and ignore these type of things. I've got to address this when I see it, Otherwise, that I have a voice. I should say, look, this is not, again, I don't like this. And so I can't just hide my head under the sin and not address this. When I see this, I've got to address it. I'm going to make it very clear. It's not a matter. Come on, guys. You guys are being very unfair. Very unfair. I have had zilch about politics on this platform. Zilch. I have kept my mouth shut for many, many times that I've wanted to speak about it, and I've kept my mouth shut. But I have a right to say, if I can't even say this is not normal, which it's not, then I should just stop doing public shows altogether, because then I have to worry about everything that I say now. And that's not right. That's not right. And so if Joe Biden did it, I would be doing the same thing. And so that's what I'm saying. But anyway, yeah, it's just strange. It's just strange. Just like I was talking to Judy Ann the other day, I don't like this back and forth, this, and I'm glad Trump stopped. But this going back and forth with Elon Musk and Trump, no. You're the president of the United States. Elon Musk is going to say what he's going to say. But we got to be careful. We got to be careful, because there are a lot of really nefarious leaders that are watching every move, every single move that we do. And we have to be careful. So, okay. The world is watching. That's the scary part about it. So, yeah. Unfortunately, I don't like, but isn't it interesting that all these politicians, they go in, and they make $150,000 a year in their salary, $150,000, and then somehow they come out and they're worth $500 million. That's interesting, isn't it? I wonder how that happens. Strange. Okay. Judy Ann, do you remember who is, I can't remember Judy Ann, who is doing that for next week, this coming week, for our night prayer? I know Judy Ann does the prayer petitions. She always knows. She keeps up with everything. Brian, thank you. See, I told you, she would know. Judy Ann is the Madam Executive Producer Secretary. She knows. She. All I got to do is say, Judy Ann, she'll know. So, have I seen the Titan? I have not seen the Titan documentary. Is it any good? Thank you there, Judy Ann. Deacon Brian, excellent. Is it any good? Part of the military, a mistake. I think something happened with that L. Yeah. It was interesting. I'll have to check that out then. It does. The radiation, JM. Yeah. So, but okay, listen to this. I want to share something. Yep. Titan documentary is out. I've been wanting to see it, but I haven't seen it yet. I want to show you something that some of you may have never, ever thought about before. Are you ready to have your eyes? Boom. Are you ready? Okay. I'll share it with you. 1 second. And there it is. Now, some of you probably have never noticed this before. The Exorcist is one of the greatest movies, obviously, of all time. But I want to share something with you that might shock you. Okay, you see that? I'll blow it up a little bit more for you guys. Now that's interesting, isn't it? But here's what people miss. And I'm gonna keep this up on the screen so everybody can see it on all the other social media platforms. And because I want to share something with you that I guarantee you probably never paid attention. Notice the Roman numerals. Notice that you see the do you see the straps there? Those are Roman numerals. So this is first, and then that it follows by that. It's 1221. So for those of you, this right here is 12, and this is 21. The XX1 right here is 21. That's 12. That's a Roman numeral for 1221. Now, some of you say, well, who cares about that? Well, if you look in scripture, you will see 1221. And what you find is Proverbs 12:21, which says, and this is even better, no harm overtake the righteous, but the wicked have their fill of trouble. And also, Romans chapter 12, verse 21 says, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. This is interesting because it's not only that, but there are several, if you ever watch, there are several movies that have a person lying in the bed and you see the straps and you'll see 1221. So it's a little bit of an Easter egg that a lot of people don't even realize. So that's what it means, 1221. Oh, that's you want another Easter egg? Let me see if I can find the picture. I'll share another Easter egg. Hold on. It might take me a tad minute or two because this one will really, you'll never, ever see this picture in the same manner. Hold on. I got to find it. Got 15 million pictures here. Okay, this is all this. One second, everybody. Just bar with me. I got a lot. There's a lot of pictures of the. I've got to finish that documentary from Alcatraz Museum. Okay. I really want to find this. Okay. Come on. Where is it? That's the problem when you have 5,000 pictures. I got 5,000 pictures. There's tons and tons of pictures of religious, and there it is. Okay. Now let me find it for you guys. Bear with me because I'm doing this on multiple fronts. Okay, this has got to go up here. It's really cool when you see it. A lot of people don't realize it. Well, crud dog. Hold on, everybody. I wasn't really planning this, but as you can tell, bam. Okay, look at this. I'll show you. Come on. Everybody knows this. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty cool. Halloween. Okay, so some of you are thinking, well, what's the big deal about this? There it is. Now watch. You'll never, ever, ever, ever see this picture the same. I blow this up, and there's a face in his hands. right there. Pretty cool, huh? Things that you didn't even notice before. Yeah. So yeah, and it's crazy, isn't it? That's pretty neat when I think about it. For those of you who are listening on this podcast, you're thinking, "What in the world?" So yeah, yeah. It's a lot of people have never even paid attention to that, but when you see it, it's those are pretty interesting. Kind of like, oh, that's neat. That's neat. So okay, I'm going to close it out on the podcast show because we can close that out anyway. So let me do that. That's just one less thing that I have to open up. Yeah, they're definitely it's scary. No question about that at all. So let me close this out and open that. Open my night. And by the way, this is going to be opened. I'm opening it. I'm putting it up there now for you guys. And then you can listen to it later. So let me do this now. And you go to bishopjameslong.com and you click on, just scroll down to where it says official social media links. And there you go. You can do that and publish. Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, we miss anybody. So hang tight, TikTok. We're going to wrap it up on, well, we can stay for a little longer. Do you guys want to have some more articles that I read? For those of you who, let me close this out because there's some more articles that are really, really cool. Okay. So let's go some really cool articles. This is by Steve Higgins. All right. Fans of Wednesday have been given their first glimpse of season 2 as Netflix released the opening 6 minutes of their brand new series during its live global event that was held on May the 31st. The sneak peek is the very first scene from season 2, episode 1, and marks the public debut of the highly anticipated new season. The clip opens with a characteristically gothic tone and features many familiar faces, including Jenna Ortega returning as Wednesday Addams. So you can type in season 2 of Wednesday. Season 2 of the hit Supernatural series will be released in 2 parts on Netflix. The first half lands on August the 6th of this year, and then part 2 is a month later on September the 3rd. One of the biggest surprises from the event was the announcement that Lady Gaga has joined the cast as a guest star. She took to the stage immediately after the teaser aired, emerging from a coffin inscribed with the words, "Here lies the Monster Queen." She then performed a live mashup featuring the songs Zombie Boy, Bloody Mary, and Abracadabra. I'm not a fan of that at all. Season 2 returns to Nevermore Academy, the school for supernatural outcasts, where Wednesday is now enrolled, this time by choice. And her younger brother, Pugsley Addams, is also joining as a student, bringing with him newly discovered electrical powers. Meanwhile, Morticia and Gomez are expected to play a bigger role on campus, which adds from fresh tension to Wednesday's story. Alongside Ortega, the returning cast includes Isaac Ordonez as Pugsley, Catherine Zeta-Jones as Morticia, Luis Guzman as Gomez, and some other folks that are familiar. The new season also introduces Steve Buscemi as Nevermore's head teacher. Anyway, behind the camera, Tim Burton is once again on board as executive producer and director. So there you go. And the teaser itself gives a quick montage of what's to come. Wednesday is seen being patted down at airport security. Pugsley destroys a welcome sign for the town of Jericho, and Thing is shown delicately handling a teacup. And there are also glimpses of Bianca in a darkened room. So anyway, it's coming out there for you. Those of you who are fans, August the 6th of this year is the first half, and September the 3rd is part 2. Okay, so there we go, guys. There is a real strange thing going on right now that people cannot explain. And we just simply, it's weird. TK Randall writes this, and this is more of a sad story. I don't understand what's going on here, but there is a mystery. I don't like some of the songs. Yeah, I don't like any song. Especially, there are some songs that's like "Proud Mary" is. No, I'm not a fan of that. I mean, I'm not talking about Tina Turner, but she does "Proud Mary." This is "Bloody Mary," that Lady Gaga is doing. But listen to this. There is a mystery as dead whales keep washing up in San Francisco Bay Area. So local authorities are struggling to explain the sudden and anomalous increase in whale deaths. Something unusual is stirring in the waters of San Francisco Bay this year, an unprecedented influx of whales. So 33 counted so far, compared to just 6 sightings in all of 2024. So even more alarming is a corresponding surge in whale deaths. 15 whales have been found dead since the beginning of the year, prompting concern and confusion among marine biologists. Now, the phenomenon began just last month when a gray whale was discovered washed up on the shores, a Black Sands beach, part of Golden Gate National Recreational Area. Says what's unfolding in San Francisco Bay right now is very dynamic, evolving situation that is very much under investigation. Giancarlo Rulli, a spokesperson for the Marine Mammal Center, stated, it says, we are seeing staggering figures and local scientists are still trying to get answers. So far, 14 of the deceased whales were gray whales, while one was identified as a rare juvenile minke whale. Researchers have collected samples from the animals in an effort to determine what caused their deaths. Preliminary investigations suggest that the 3 of the whales may have died from vessel strikes. But the cause behind the remaining 12 deaths and the sudden spike in whale activity in the bay remains a mystery. And for those, wow, that's just, and I'm just delivering the news. I'm not arguing yes or for. So President Trump has deployed the National Guard as protests over immigration enforcement around Los Angeles escalate. So we pray for the situation in Los Angeles, regardless. I don't care what political aisle you are on. If we can't at least pray for peace, then we shouldn't call ourselves Christians. So we pray for peace in that area. Okay. Yep. We did the Atloff. So, all right. Oh, and by the way, the Annabelle the doll, if you are in Kentucky, or if you are wanting to come to Kentucky and see Annabelle the doll, well, guess what? You have a chance. And this is from 99.5 WKDQ. At least a dozen artifacts from Ed and Lorraine Warren's Occult Museum are coming to Kentucky, including Annabelle herself. And by now you have seen or last heard the Conjuring Universe movies. And these films are based on the lives of Ed and Lorraine Warren, 2 paranormal investigators who investigations have become larger than life. So there have been 3 Conjuring movies, with the final one set to be released this year. So aside from the Conjuring films, there have been several spin-off movies. So anyway, with Annabelle, the real Annabelle is coming to Kentucky. We'll be at the Central Bank Center in Lexington for this year's Scarefest weekend on October 17th and 19th. It will be an exhibit alongside at least a dozen other artifacts from the museum founded by Ed and Lorraine Warren. So there you go. If you're interested, you can go see Annabelle in Kentucky at Scarefest, the paranormal conference that they have every year. Yeah. You don't understand. You don't understand the stuff with Mary. What stuff with Mary? I'll be happy to. Expedition Unknown. I used to. I don't watch a whole lot of television anymore. So no, I'll be in California at that time. So yeah, I will be in California, and so I won't be able to participate in that. Well, thank you there, Jessica. Appreciate that. So here are some movies that you need to be aware of, and then we're going to wrap it up here. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate that. This is trying to figure out who the author is. They never show the author, so if they're not an author, okay. If you like horror movies, scary movies, yep, it's live. There are some horror movies to be on the lookout for this year. First, The Ritual, which I do plan to watch. The Ritual is a demonic possession thriller centered on two Catholic priests who join forces to confront a case of diabolical possession. One priest is grappling with a crisis of faith, while the other is haunted by a dark and troubled past, and despite their differences, they must work together to perform a harrowing exorcism ritual aimed at saving a young woman believed to be possessed by a powerful demon. Thank you. The film is reportedly inspired by a documented real-life exorcism case. So there we go. The next one is 28 Years Later. It's a long-awaited third installment in the series that began with the 28 Days Later. So nearly 3 decades after the original outbreak of the Rage virus, this post-apocalyptic story finds humanity still fighting to survive amid hordes of the infected. So that's coming out this year. Megan 2.0. Megan 2.0 picks up 2 years after the events of the first film, with AI inventor Gemma and her niece Katie trying to move on after surviving Megan's initial rampage. So that's coming out. Predator, Killer of Killers, brings the iconic alien hunter into an ambitious new format, an animated anthology film. I wouldn't. This next one is called Dangerous Animals, is a sun-drenched survival horror film that puts a ferocious twist on the shark thriller. The story follows Zephyr, a free-spirited surfer visiting Australia's Gold Coast, who is kidnapped by a deranged serial killer with a shark obsession. Some people say that they've seen this and they really, really like it. So yeah. Anyway, I think actually that's out. Someone said that they saw it and they really liked it. So you might want to check that out. So hold on with the questions. I'll get to your questions in just a second. But for those of you who are listening to this or watching this on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and all that other stuff, so here's the deal. We're going to be here tomorrow at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Bible study. We're also going to be here on TikTok and TikTok only at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Mass. So you can join us either one, but if you want to join us for Mass, it's at 6 p.m. Eastern on TikTok only. And then if you want to watch Bible study, you can watch it right here on the social media platform that you're watching. But for those of you who are on all other social media platforms other than TikTok, I'm going to say to you, remember, your value does not decrease based on someone's inability or refusal to see your worth. You're priceless. And don't let any troll tell you or convince you otherwise. Good night, and hopefully we'll see you all tomorrow.